In our dynamic markets, we're definitely seeing a trend of the increased prevalence of digital technology doing two things really. One is actually developing new media spaces and places in their own right, exclusively in digital areas. The other is really creating a digital backdrop to everything that we have traditionally done as a business. So really everything has changed or is changing, and it is that digital backdrop and the digital technology that's doing it. I think within that, probably what we're seeing is it's never been more important than now to keep the consumer at the heart of everything we do and all of our thinking, because consumers tend to be ahead of those technological changes and ahead of the media communications marketplace. So actually by keeping a really smart eye and a sharp eye on consumer behaviours and motivations, we're really able to make sure that as we innovate in media communications, we're doing so in the right places. The exciting thing, I think, from our point of view about a lot of these new channels and new spaces is that they're incredibly open-ended. No one really knows the answers or exactly how to chart a course through them. We tend to use a phrase that's about living a life in beta, where a slightly old-fashioned perspective of sort of retaining control over everything and attempting to find perfection before activating campaigns has really gone. And now we're living a life in beta. The world is just moving too fast, and you've got to move quickly and act quickly and learn as you move along, understanding that things won't necessarily be perfectly controlled or in a state of perfection before you activate. We're particularly active in terms of new areas. We're particularly active around all biddable media and around social networks. Really interestingly, our business in London acts as a hub for a lot of international business in those areas, where you find that actually a centre where you can draw on a lot of cultures and a lot of different languages means that you're well positioned to hub digital activity out across the world potentially, and a lot of it internationally. So we've got a lot of activity in those areas. I think, interestingly, from my perspective, having worked with the business for a long time, is really observing the changes that are happening in the more traditional areas of our business. How we're starting to see the areas such as radio, outdoor advertising, press, really change quite radically and innovate quite radically, partly because they have to, and looking forward to the increasing changes we'll see in television as well. So we're starting to trial addressable TV advertising, for example, and really start to understand better the relationship between second and third screen on first screen activity as well. We just announced recently a very large global deal with Twitter, for example, that has us drawing on a lot of the data that Twitter can share with us to much better inform not just how we use Twitter and all media, but particularly so that we can be better informed around people's relationship with television and how they're exhibiting and telling us about that relationship through the other screens.